Welcome to the Intuitive Rising podcast. I'm your host, Amy Brooks. This is a podcast that invites you to remember who you are, return to yourself, and rise into your highest and best soul self. Every week, I will be sharing inspiring conversations about topics that hold keys to your awakening. My mission as an international evidential psychic medium, Reiki practitioner, and intuitive mentor is to help you rise into who you were born to be. Enjoy the show. Hey, how are you? Happy March to you. It is March 2025, or it's just about to be, and we are tapping into the energy, to the guidance for 2025, March. And I can't believe that, but here we are. And so you know the drill. We do this every month. We pull a tarot card, an oracle card, and a soul's journey lesson card for each month. I channel the guidance for you, and then I tap into the animal messenger of the month, the number support, and the color support. So that's what we're here to do. I'm going to shuffle with you as we go. Kind of turning away slightly, so I'll try not to be too loud in the mic. I did get a new mic for my birthday back in January, and it's like a really high-techy one. I don't know, but my husband got me like the best of the best, he said, and so it picks up a lot of stuff, like me smacking my lips once in a while. There's probably no hiding from any background noise. Okay, we had one that popped out. I'm gonna continue to shuffle. I'm gonna shuffle all the cards here at once as we kind of chat a little bit. But yeah, I hope everybody is doing so well and is enjoying the podcast and just enjoying life in general. There's been a lot going on in our collective energy, has there not? I know that a lot of us sensitive souls have been feeling kind of sort of overwhelmed. That might be an understatement. And I'm just here to let you know, me too. I'm with you in the trenches. We're all in this together, even if we feel very separate and like there's a lot of division. Truly, we all come from the same place, right? We are all connected, and so let's treat each other well. Let's treat each other well. Okay, all right, I pulled the 3 cards. Now, I have enough info and knowledge about the tarot card and about the Soul's Journey lesson, but the oracle card that I pulled from this deck that I haven't pulled from in a long time, I will go to the guidebook for that one just to get additional messages around that. Okay, so our tarot card message for March is and comes from the Strength card. The immediate thing that comes to my mind is just, when we hear that old adage, March is like in like a lion out like a lamb, right? And we've got reference to lion as well as lamb in this card. So I feel like that's fitting. Let's look at the card, because this is what I advise you guys to do as intuitive yourself. And if you are interested in cards or a card reader yourself, I always say look at the images on the card for you, like to begin with, before you go to the guidebook, because there's always insights. There's always something that's trying to be shared with you through the visual, so you can really tap into your intuition this way. So we've got this woman that's like half woman, half lion. She has got what looks like some sort of precious stone around her neck. It looks like it's in heart shape. She's got an infinity tattoo on her forearm. There's some constellations in the background, and there is a lamb. And so what is this card trying to bring forth for us in the month of March? There very much is a feeling of, okay, I'm just going to channel because this is what's happening. Related to this card, but also, side note, or could be unrelated to this card. I very much feel as if there's going to be a lot of distractions in the month of March, both individually, like in our own realities, in our own day-to-day, but also on a much bigger scale. So what's happening in the world? There's a lot of things that are being I keep hearing like pulling the wool over your eyes. So which is interesting reference because we see the lamb there and now wool as well. There's just, we're being asked to be mindful of what we're being distracted from, both ourselves distracting ourselves from things, or on a larger scale, what we're being distracted from. Okay, so I'm sure there's plenty of things we can think about right now on a big scale, politically, things that are happening in the world where we feel like, oh yeah, we're being distracted with, like, this is really a non-issue, but it's being made into a big issue because we're being kind of, our attention is being distracted here because something else is happening, right? So that kind of comes in, is to be mindful of distractions, both on a global sense, but also in your day-to-day life. So this reminds me a bit of the devil card that comes forward in the tarot. So, you know, what is your vice? What's distracting you? What's keeping you from what you need to do or what you're working on? Which is interesting, right? So that comes in to help you find your inner strength this month, is what's coming in. It feels like we are doing a whole awful lot of healing all at once. And I feel like this comes in. Some of us, like literally the wool is being, taken off. The rainbow colored, not rainbow color, rose colored glasses are being taken off, and we're seeing things with new eyes through new lenses. And this can be like quite overwhelming for some of us. I feel like mainly one of these messages is that we're waking up. There's more and more people waking up, quote unquote, to the illusion, to the matrix, to like what is actually happening in the world right now. That's firstly. Secondarily, there's a feeling of like there's new levels of consciousness that we are reaching this month, and they come from being aware of what's happening around us because we're more mindful about what is or has been distracting us, or what has been keeping us from seeing something as clearly as it was. So there's that. And there's just this feeling of like huge support, divine intervention and support. This month doesn't feel like bad by any means. And certainly like these cards, tarot, oracle, any sort of energy forecast is never meant to like predict exactly what's going to happen. It comes in as like an energy, a pattern, something to be mindful of, right? And to help align you. So, as I was saying, it's not that I'm feeling anything untoward. So this month, it just feels like, navigating the energetic terrain as we have for the last few months, maybe a few years, there's been a lot of ups and downs, and it hasn't always been easy for any of us, but especially those of us that really take on the energy of others, who really have a strong kind of ability, to empathize with others and feel and take on energy as if it belongs to us. There is guidance with this card. When I first connected to it, and I heard like in like an outline, out like a lamp, there's more to that than just reference to the month, right? And that old adage about March. It's also to bring in like a feeling, if there is things in your environment that's happening, whether individually or on a global scale, that make you feel untethered in any way, that make you feel overwhelmed, hopeless, like maybe everything's just kind of like coming to a head and you're just overwhelmed with everything. This really feels as if you do have the ability and the strength to refocus on the controllables in your life, right? So when we talk about in like a lion, I feel like that's a nod to potentially the energies that are around us that we've already been navigating. Out like a lamb is this new sense or new awareness around the need to calm oneself, the need to focus on inner peace, on what we can do in our day to day that helps us feel tethered, that helps us feel connected and belonging, right? Spirit has been talking a lot to me lately about the need for community. And not only that, like my soul, my spirit needs more community, but that I have the ability to create community for other people that are looking for it. And so that is a focus of mine in general. But when it comes, that is reminded to me from this month. I feel like we are being encouraged to find our community if we're feeling untethered, if we're feeling alone, adrift, or like maybe we are surrounded by others in our family and our friend groups, our spouse who don't align on some really core values or principles. Maybe this has to do with political views. Maybe it has to do with spiritual views versus religious views. Like, it doesn't really matter what it's about. It just feels like there is encouragement for us to find the others, so to speak, to find our people, our community, and that will help anchor us this month and in moving forward into the energy of the future when things are changing swiftly. There is kind of a fast pace that comes in March. So I feel like it's possible that like a lot's happening in one time, again, globally, but also individually. Individually, like maybe you've got a lot happening at work. Maybe it's like the birthday month where everybody's got like birthdays. Maybe it's when the kids have a ton of activities. Maybe, like, who knows? It just feels like there's a lot happening individually. Maybe things we don't even expect, but that just kind of show up for us. Maybe it's also globally, right? It's also collective. There's a lot of things being thrown at us all at once, a lot of changes happening all at once. And so we're being asked to find our people, right? And like hold on to them. It's the time to reach out to your people. It's the time to reconnect. It's the time to think about what makes us feel grounded and supported and safe and focus on those things. It's the time when we think about the things that we can control, the things that bring us joy, the things that give us peace in the moment as well. So that comes in a really big way for March. And it's just kind of like regulating your nervous system, calming yourself down. It starts with the awareness that like, oh, maybe I'm picking up on a lot of stuff. Maybe it's the energy of other people, the energy of the world is really overwhelming me and affecting my day to day. And this is not about, ignorance. Ignorance is bliss. It's not about that, because now is not the time to turn an eye away from what things are happening, because we're all in this together. And I really feel like we're being kind of activated to be more vocal about how we feel about things. However, it is a time to know, like, kind of what you can do right now and what you can't do, and what drains you versus energizes you. It's a focus on all of that this month. So I want you to think about ways in which you can regulate your nervous system, things that dysregulate your nervous system, spending less time within your control with those things, with those people, in those environments, if you can. That comes in. Okay, so the next card we're going with is the Oracle card, and this comes from the deck, The Enchanted Map, which is by Colette Baron-Reid, and the card is number 41, and it is Unexpected Visitors. So what this card is all about, and what I hear clearly, is like best laid plans, dot, dot, dot. It feels as if we're being asked to. It's interesting. It's so interesting because I just spent time talking about like, what can we control? And I don't mean in the sense that we hold on tight. We don't allow flow. We don't allow things to move and change, but just we focus on the day-to-day of things that, like, it's kind of like, what I mean to say is sometimes we get overwhelmed. Say we're overwhelmed at the politics that are happening in the world right now, or the injustices that we're seeing, the war, the famine, etc. Um, it's about like sometimes we are just so overwhelmed with that, and we're inundated with it, that it affects us so deeply, both in good ways, in the way that it's supposed to affect you, in the way that it's supposed to activate you to want differently, right? But also in more of a negative aspect, where it keeps you almost in a freeze, in a fight or flight. It keeps you in a lower vibration, a depressed kind of state in which you don't feel empowered or activated. Makes you more feel very victimized, right? And so that's how I'm trying to explain, is like the things that you can control, the controllables are like what happens inside your four walls, right? How you treat each other, how you spend your time when you are at home, when you are in the company of others, how you respond to others, where your power lies. Like that is where your power lies, is what I'm hearing. So it's about focusing on those controllables versus the things that are outside of you that feel uncontrollable right now. And then this card comes in to say, expect the unexpected, in the sense that try not to hold on so tight to what you think should happen or what you plan to happen. There may be some things that kind of come in that, oh, I didn't expect that not to work. Oh, I expected that to work, but it didn't, or this is where I think I'm going, but then the path takes me somewhere differently. It's asking you to loosen the reins around trying to control every single thing moving forward in your life, but also, focusing on, not getting overwhelmed by it as well. So, and I think it actually is good advice. If we think about, I'll share, I've been very overwhelmed with what's been happening in the world right now. And I feel like this newfound activism that always was in me, but now I feel like I can't keep quiet. Like I feel like I want to be on a soapbox, like talking about the injustices in the world, and I'm not laughing because I think that's funny. And just it's so it's so different from before, because I always felt this way, but I always felt like I shouldn't say it, I shouldn't rock the boat. I'm like, no, let's rock the boat, that's what we're here to do. So I relate to the feeling of like being very overwhelmed and not knowing what to do with that, or thinking very big picture, and like, how do I and my one voice make a difference there? But how we make the difference is each of our individual voices coming together. But also, if we're after more peace, more alignment, then we can't, from the get-go, try to control what's outside of us, to try to force what's not peaceful or not aligned in our group, in our world, in our collective from the get-go, because that's too big of a job. And I feel like that's such a light worker thing to get overwhelmed about, is to be focused on like all the injustices in the world and all the bad things that are happening, and then getting stalled because we're like, that's so big of a job, like how am I going to change that? But it's about recognizing and being aware that we make the changes within, in our own four walls, within our own selves. So we work, if we find more peace and alignment within our own life, within the lives of our children or our spouses or our best friends, then that trickles out. It's a light, it's a ripple effect that then begins to grow bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And if everybody did that, then we would be making huge strides and huge changes. And certainly that is already happening. And I see it in the world already. But it's just a reminder to try not to get overwhelmed. Big picture, Try to focus on what's happening right now that you can change within yourself, knowing that if you are making yourself feel more peaceful, focus on more joy, focus on simplicity, focus on alignment and within yourself, then that does influence. And I feel actually the word influence comes in a lot with this card is being influential, or maybe it's with the strength card. I feel like one of the words associated to one of these cards that I've talked about have to do with influence. And I think the reminder here is that to know and to be reminded of your influence, that your influence, even if it's small, is big. And it's growing, big snowball. Okay, so unexpected visitors simply means that, our best laid plans, we all have them, but we know sometimes things happen in ways that we don't expect them to. And it turns out that they take us to really great places. Okay, so let's work on a flow state this month. If somebody had told me 10 years ago that I'd be working as a professional psychic medium, I would have laughed and said, no flippin' way. Not because I wouldn't have wanted that. I've always been fascinated by this work, but more so that I couldn't have imagined or couldn't foresee how that could ever happen. I didn't have all those pieces yet, but then they came in and it made sense. So that's just an example for you moving forward. Expect the unexpected. In like a lion, out like a lamb, nervous system regulation. What is our soul's lesson for the month of March? We've got the imagination card. I just got big old shivers when I pull this. The card says, I embrace and nourish the creative aspect of my mind. Maybe this is one of those controllables. When the outside world feels overwhelming, when you're seeing things in the world that you don't agree with, that don't align with you, that cause you upset. There's something that nobody else can control, ever. And that is what happens in here. What you believe, what your mindset is. Not to say that those can't be influenced by other people, they certainly can, but they are something that once you are very firm in a belief system, in a mindset about yourself, in a feeling, an awareness about yourself, once you're firmly in that, another person could say anything they wanted and they couldn't budge you because you're so firmly in that. Nobody can take your imagination away. Nobody can influence your imagination without you allowing them to, right? This is something that belongs to you and to you only. Your dreams, your desires are connected to your imagination. So this month it's reminding you, maybe as a way to calm your nervous system, to regulate yourself, to combat that feeling of overwhelm that may be in your life, as focusing on your imagination, spending some time there, right? That is a part of manifesting, is to not only decide on what you want for your life, but on focusing, right? Putting your attention where my attention goes, my energy flows, right? So there's a controllable. My controllable is where I allow myself to pay attention. Am I spending a lot of time overwhelmed reading the newspaper, watching the news? Well, then something I can do that is controllable for me is to not be on social media, or not, read the news, not watch the news, because I know that when my attention goes there, that's also where my energy goes. So knowing that that's something that is only yours and that you have the ability to, direct, is a big deal this month, I think. And I think we really, really, really need that reminder right now. Sometimes when we feel like we are powerless, when things are hopeless, or things are happening outside of our control, it really is a great time to be reminded of, hey, we all have parts of us that nobody else doesn't belong to anybody else, right? And that nobody else could change or take away from you. And so just know that, your mantra this month is where my attention goes, my energy flows. So focusing on what you're manifesting for yourself, sink into that like delicious feeling of how it feels when that thing happens. So say it is that you want to say your goal, one of your dreams and desires right now, something that you're working on is to trust your intuition. Okay, so there's the goal. You've clearly stated it. The next thing you need to do is to sit in it, imagine, meditate, get yourself in that space where you are tapping into what life looks like and what it feels like to be living an intuitive life. Okay, what does that feel like for you? Is it empowering? Is it comforting? Is it peaceful? Spend some time feeling that. The mind body connection is insane. So your body doesn't know that something's not happening if your mind is telling it it is, kind of thing, right? So if your mind is sitting in this dreamy energy of how it feels and how it's going to be to live an intuitively led life, your body believes that, right? So you change yourself, you change your energy field. You influence other people with this energy field as well. And so I feel like that's the guidance that comes through that with that card, imagination, to spend time in that stage of manifestation right now. The belief, the emotions, the really, really focus on belief that you can have that. And then wait for what comes next. Okay, so we've done the cards. Now we're going to take a moment. We're going to see our animal that comes in. I'm just going to close my eyes and take a moment. Okay, our animal for the month of March is a bear. It is a brown bear that I see in my mind's eye. Okay, and what this brown bear, it's medicine for us this month. It's kind of like what I'm seeing. It's almost cartoony, like a bear kind of coming out of their cave. I mean, again, we're like entering spring in the month of March. A couple weeks away, it will be spring officially in the sense of season rather of spring. And so I see this like bear and like rubbing its eyes, like, I've been sleeping for a while. I think this may have to do with a sense of awakening, quite literally awakening to something that you were blind to before. Something that, so when I felt like the wool over our eyes or rose colored glasses coming off, it's like seeing something more clear. And like there's a potential with this is what's coming in is sometimes when the world becomes more clear, when the wool comes off of our eyes, when we awaken, we go through the stage of grief, disbelief. How can that be? How could I have been blind to this the whole time? This comes through with a lot of love, but I feel like a lot of us are going through this at this time right now in the month of March. How could that be, is what I keep hearing. But the gift in this is truth and clarity. The gift is in alignment, in being, it's like I hear like there's no beating around the bush. It's now very clear. It's very clear. The path is very clear. So this is what the brown bear offers us this month, is a feeling of awakening to truths, to alignment, to things that previously we might not have been aware of. Maybe we have been blocking it to some degree. Maybe there's like some new awareness around ways in which we've kept ourselves stuck. Now, earlier today, at the day of this recording, I did a collective card pull and I shared some guidance that was coming in. And I feel like this is guidance that also wants to come in for us when we connect to the brown bear around. There may be some things changing in us, like our taste for things, our interest for things. It may be that we are we're in this like shedding phase of wanting to energetically shake things off, right? So it's kind of like you might feel like all of a sudden you want to change something in your diet. Maybe you want to give up alcohol. Maybe you want to give up coffee. Again, there's no judgments here. You do you, and there's no right one way to be a spiritual intuitive being. Okay, so this is not what that's bringing in, but it is bringing up a feeling of like things may be changing within you, where you're like losing your taste for something that before you were really interested in, and now you're like, I don't like that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. Maybe like relationships. It may be related to jobs. It may be related to interests or hobbies, things that we used to talk a lot about, things that we used to believe in that now we're like, I don't know if that's aligning anymore. And so you can see this process of waking up to it absolutely can shake some feathers here within ourselves and within our families. And, you know, with this shift, that's the change, that's the what's happening outside of ourselves that we can't necessarily control, but knowing that it's getting us to the right place of realignment. So spring is coming, quite literally, but also like at the soul, there's a feeling of rebirth. Okay, and so our inner bear is kind of rubbing its eyes and going, my God, what has happened all this time that I've been asleep? Maybe a feeling of needing release. Maybe we're grieving something, grieving old versions of ourselves, grieving things that we thought would happen, didn't happen. Remember that card with the unexpected visitors? Maybe something doesn't happen the way we want it to. And so allow yourself that grief if you need to, if you feel that. But also knowing that there's a newfound awareness, a new clarity. No beating around the bush, more accelerated path is what I hear. So that's what the brown bear brings us this month. And I got goosies as I said that. Okay, so our number, let's tap in. Thank you, brown bear. Let's see what our number is for the month of March. Got sevens again. Last month we had sevens. I think it was it not 777 in February? I feel like it was. This month we've got 17 coming in a really, really big way. The 1 and 7. There's a real, when I like tap into the energy of 7, yes, we've got like that kind of luck, but like luck is what you make it. Somebody with lucky is just aligned, is what I'm hearing. Right? Somebody could have everything in the world that it would take to be successful and not utilize any of it, not use it. And there's other people that, can create their own luck. They might have nothing, but they can create that. So it's this feeling of like somebody's born lucky, or somebody, oh, that's for them and not for me. That goes back to when I said, I wouldn't have imagined 10 years ago that I would be doing what I'm doing now, not because I wouldn't want to, but because there would be a lack of belief in me. Me? Really? Me? How? Why? And that kind of comes in a little bit with this number, this 1-7 of working on belief systems, working on confidence, knowing that you create your own luck, that you can make something out of nothing is what I hear. So I just want you to pay attention to those numbers this month, that number 171717. It feels very strongly connected. Now, interestingly enough, that I'm thinking of like the number 17, and then I think in March 17 is St. Patrick's Day, and we think of the 4-leaf clover, which is also associated with luck. That's an interesting synchronicity right there. But it's meant to be like used as a reminder, right? We create our own luck. We create it. It's simply an act of aligning ourselves to opportunity. To growing, to evolving. 1-7 is your number for March. Love that. 4-leaf clover. We've got yellow coming in. I was going to say, do we have green? No, that would be too obvious. We've got yellow coming in for us with guidance for the month of March. And yellow brings in a really big connection for me to the solar plexus. So right here in our bellies, connected to the divine will, to our sense of will, to our confidence, to our sense of like what makes us feel alive. When we have a solar plexus that is flowing as it should, we are tapped in, we are feeling alive. and we are wanting to create. We're wanting to create. And I do feel, that comes like solar, the sun, right? We're talking about spring, we're talking about rebirth, awakening. We're kind of coming out of our caves, so to speak, like the brown bear, and we're seeing things with new eyes. This connection to solar plexus is big this month. Connection to the color yellow and to just solar energy, the sun. Spend as much time as you can in the sun, I hear. Obviously, we take care of our skin, we put sunscreen on. If we're going to be spending a lot of time in the sun, even if it's winter, we do that. But yeah, I just feel sun is really important this month. Vitamin D, help us kind of tap into that solar energy, getting your hands dirty. Maybe this is a time when we are starting to plant seeds for the plants, the flowers and things that we will be growing come a few months from now. But like getting our hands dirty. Creativity comes in a really big way. Pardon me. And also the number 7 to me is a very creative number as well, when we went to our number with the 1-7. So like 1 for me always kind of gives me a feeling of leadership, and 7 of innovation or creativity. And so we put those together and we've got this solar energy in a really, really lovely way. Yellow might be a color also that you're drawn to this month. Maybe it's about like choosing the yellow shirt, the yellow socks out of the closet. Maybe it's about eating more yellow foods, but there is a focus on being in the sun. Growth, rebirth, maybe some vitamin D for some of us, thinking about what makes us feel alive, where our will is, where are we lacking will, and then feeling more empowered that we can create luck. We can create our own luck, right? There's not just people that are lucky. There's people that are aligned, is what I hear. So creating your own luck in a big way. I love how those 3 messages really all come together and say the same thing. So that's where I'm going to leave you with this beautiful energetic forecast for our 3rd month of 2025. I hope you're all well, and I will see you again next week. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider hopping on over to wherever you listen to your podcast and giving it a 5-star review. Thank you so much in advance. If you'd like to keep in touch, please head over to my website, theintuitiverising.com, to keep up with all the things that I have been doing. I also have a private Facebook community for people just like you. It's called the Intuitive Rising Community. All you gotta do is request to join, and I will let you in. Keep rising.